Hey guys, what's up? This is Eric Regan at Photography Bay, and today we're going to be looking at the new Nikon D500 that was announced yesterday at CES 2016. You Nikon shooters have been waiting a long time for this camera to come out. So long, in fact, that Nikon completely skipped the D400 and went straight to the D500. Now, that's not entirely true. There's actually a very good reason for the name of the Nikon D500, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But first, let's talk about what this camera has under the hood. It starts with a 20.9 megapixel CMOS sensor using Nikon's DX format. This is the 1.5x crop factor. Has a sensitivity range of ISO 100 to 51,200. It is expandable to ISO 50 to 1,640,000. The camera can capture up to 10 frames per second with full autofocus and auto exposure, and it uses XQD cards in addition to the old standard SD card. Of course, you're going to get a lot more speed and performance out of the XQD, both inside the camera and when you're offloading your images. The first thing that struck me about the Nikon D500 was just how light the camera is. And that's thanks to a magnesium alloy and carbon fiber combo in the camera's frame. It also features 4K video capture. On the back of the camera, you get a 3.2-inch touchscreen LCD. Now, this LCD can be used for a number of features, including touch shutter and focus points, but it isn't really a full-time touchscreen, so that you can't scroll through the menu and tap individual menu items, although there are some menu selections that you can make with the touchscreen. One cool thing, though, is that in addition to reviewing images and zooming in and out with the pinch to zoom, when you're reviewing video clips that you've captured, you can scrub at a high speed by moving your finger from one side of the screen to the other. Another new feature on the D500 is the new Nikon Snap Bridge. Now, this is supposed to make the D500's connectivity to smartphones and other mobile devices much easier, because Snap Bridge is a Bluetooth connection between the camera and compatible mobile devices. So that should remove some of the friction when connecting cameras to a smartphone. The D500 also has solid connectivity options with a USB 3.0 port, which should be a boon to those of you who like to do tethered capture. It also has a dedicated out for monitoring audio, as well as a microphone input for capturing audio with an external mic. And it offers a mini HDMI out, which I think is better than the small micro HDMI. The mini HDMI just has a more solid connection. And speaking of that HDMI port, it offers uncompressed 8-bit 422 output for capturing video to an external recorder. So I mentioned there was a good reason for the Nikon D500 name. And so when I asked the product manager for the D500 about the D500 name and what happened to the D400, I was expecting to hear that it's some kind of Asian superstition about the number 4 that we commonly hear when cameras with the 4 in the model name are skipped. But because the D500 is so closely tied to the technology inside the Nikon D5, Nikon thought it was important to have a consistent name alongside the Nikon D5. Much like the Nikon D3 and D300 were introduced together, the Nikon D500 borrows so much from the Nikon D5 that it simply had to have the 5 in the name. And it carries on the DX100 model name because it is the true successor to the D300S. And so that line continues with this camera. So in reality, Nikon did just simply skip the D400. But there's a good reason that makes sense why they did that. So that's about all I've got for now on the new Nikon D500. It retails for $19.99 and will ship in March of this year. You could pre-order the camera right now, and I suspect that there will be some long pre-order lines, so hopefully we won't have any serious wait since Nikon has a 3-month lead on the demand. But if you really want this camera on the day it comes out, it's probably a good idea to pre-order it now. I'll link up to the original announcement post from yesterday on the D500 so you can read more about the specs and features. And stay tuned to Photography Bay for more from CES 2016.